Screw you. Don't hit record.
No, I hit record. That's going on YouTube. So the world's going to see how pretty of a bow you had tonight, Zach. We're streaming, ladies and gentlemen.
You're live.
And what's that on Seinfeld Festivus or something like that? Merry Festivus?
For the rest of us.
Okay, I'm not a Seinfeld fella. I think the greatest show of all time, hands down. I used to think it was Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
It's a good show.
It's a good show. It's fantastic. It's great.
Never saw it.
Oh my goodness. Sue, do you have Sprint T-Mobile? You get a free a Hulu account and you can watch them on there for free.
I have Hulu.
Oh yeah, add it to your list. But the greatest show of all time is Eastbound and Down.
Oh yeah, great. Yep.
Hands down. There's nothing even
Super funny.
close to it.
I'm sorry,
Flame Blanco,
What show?
Eastbound and Down. You have to write that down for your Amazon Prime account.
Well, Chuck, now that you're a hockey guy, are you watching Letterkenny?
I have. The accents have been too hard for me, even though I'm a Minnesotan. So
Because we're so far away from Canada.
Haven't been able to do it. Anyways, getting back to business here, ladies and gentlemen, or 2 minutes in almost. I don't want to burn up your time. We're going to speak about white collar. This is where the emphasis is going to be. Doesn't mean it won't work for blue collar or no collar or super high executive management people. But Pete here this evening is here to discuss his many, many years of practice of what will help make your resume a lot more solid. And he promises not to PowerPoint us to death. So you may have escaped combat alive, but I can't guarantee you'll make it out of this session from the PowerPoint alive. Hit it, Pete.
Thanks, gang. Your old pal, Pete Lavelle. I'm going to share the screen here in just a sec. Give me just a sec, and we will go fire up the show. Welcome to Disaster Recovery, or how to write job summaries and experience descriptions for resumes. Now, I just want to show you what typically people do. They do an objective statement, and I want to tell you here and now, don't do that anymore. There's no such thing as an objective statement. Why? Because the employer doesn't care what you want or need. They have a need, and you're actually supposed to be addressing their need with your resume. So that's why we stop with anything closely resembling an objective statement. Okay.
Pete, what's better, nails on a chalkboard or objective statement?
Nails on a chalkboard.
That's what I thought.
Okay, so I'm going to show you an example of a do-it-yourself. You know, this is the best that the person can do, and I'm not slamming what they did, but this is what most of us do and what we've been taught to do. We go to these little seminars and these little teachers. We pass our resumes around to our buds, and they say, yeah, it's good. Or maybe even gone so far as to crack a little online how-to course. And but if writing isn't your thing, then probably all that help is you're still going to end up kind of circling back to what you're best at, or as the limits of your writing envelope. Let's put it that way. So I'm going to have you read that. I hope everybody can see it okay. I'm going to give you just a pause for a sec while you read that, and then think about what's wrong.
Fluffy the cat comes to mind.
Yep. Zach, anything?
I'm not a cat guy.
Zach, Sue, anything that you see that you'd like to observe?
There's no specifics at all. These are all buzzwords that they think employers want to hear.
Exactly.
Almost makes it kind of hard to read.
My pillow is not this fluffy.
So I highlighted those terms because they are mostly they can be considered conjecture or just an opinion of yourself. And they are exactly what Sue says. They're fluff words, and they're the words that people think that the corporate world wants to hear. And it's anything but that. They don't really help the reader understand your value In fact, they're counterproductive because they interfere with their ability to judge your authentic ability. Okay, does that make sense? So I worked with this individual, and right away, we picked out those were because for to me they stick out like sore thumbs because I've been doing this so long. So oops, stand by. So this was the statement that we came up with, and go ahead and read that to yourself for just a sec, and tell me what your impressions are of the differences.
Well, it's a little more pointed at what the target is that they're going for. So I don't have to read 15 words that are unnecessary as a hiring manager or recruiter. When I'm only going to give you about 10, 15 seconds anyway, you better make every single second count like you're riding like a bull at the rodeo here.
Yep, I feel like this is almost like a good start to an elevator pitch, and it flows really it's almost seamless.
Pete, if you can pat yourself on the back without breaking your arm, go ahead.
And that's not really my objective tonight, to coin a bad word. It really is to demonstrate what we want to aim our arrow towards, and that is the reader. This statement is completely oriented towards the person who's reading it. It's really not about the guy who's owning this resume, but it's about what they bring to the table. So we use active words. We use we eliminate the superfluous words. So when you do see an adjective here and there, a descriptor, it actually means something. It belongs there, like creative thinking, not just thinking, but creative thinking. There's nothing wrong with declaring yourself as analytical, because I really believe that's what they're looking for. So these are relevant, they're meaningful, and it builds authentic value with the reader. Okay. So I just put them here side by side, and we could post this slide deck later, of course, for people to learn from. But you'll see that, oops.
Hey, Pete, do you know what about the word count was on that difference? Probably what, 15, 20 words pulled, maybe even probably around there.
Let me go back a second. It's a lot. There are fewer words, obviously. Just pulling out those superfluous words automatically make it less. But I just, in rewriting it, I just cut through all the junk and saw the thing for the value of what this individual actually does bring. I don't have the word count, but it's about 25% fewer words right there. Okey-doke.
So Pete, can you talk a little bit about why we want to eliminate the fluff words or the buzzwords, why they're not relevant in a summary statement like this?
Because it adds too much clutter. You're trying to make a point. People in the corporate world, and in any world, really, any professional world, just want to know what it is you're trying to communicate. And so those fluff words, they transmit an air of inauthenticity. They're not genuine, and they're just sort of like cheap marketing words almost. And again, it depends on what the word is and how it's being used. But generally, you want they don't really do the work that you think they're going to do, that the person who's writing it really thinks that they're going to do. They just don't know what.
Highly motivated.
Highly motivated is still conjecture.
Highly dedicated.
Still, you got to prove it. If you're going to make a claim, you have to prove it. I'm going with like the way the world of medical devices works. Okay. If you make any kind of claim, you have to back it with facts. You can say highly motivated, but you need to quantify it, or you need to somehow demonstrate that you are highly motivated. And you could spend a lot more of your resume real estate trying to explain what you meant by that, or proving it, than it's worth. So again, let's stick with the facts. That make sense?
Let's move
That
on.
makes sense. Thank you.
We're going to try this again. I have another person here, logistics expert with 10 years of experience in procurement and warehouse operations, 7 years of warehouse management experience in the military, where I manage 12 employees and $50 million of equipment. Now, I didn't make any of these up. These are actual people who are actually trying to get a job with these things. I was the purchaser for all supplies and equipment for the unit. I also have 3.5 years outside the military managing shipping, receiving operations. I obtained a bachelor's degree in supply chain management.
I would have loved to hear less of the I's in there because I didn't like hearing I so much.
Right.
I think I recognize this one.
Yeah.
No, it's not me.
Yeah.
But this guy that you have here was a very, very good squared away guy who I guarantee you is now an extremely good logistics fella at the company he works at.
Yeah. I believe he was on track to get a master's degree too. If it's the same guy that I'm thinking about. But yeah, you're right. We did encounter him at our one of our meetings or several of our meetings.
Yep.
And helped him get squared away. Anything else you see wrong with this?
Well, so, this is kind of where you have to, if you hand this resume off to a vet, they're going to be able to read it and understand every single word that's on here.
Yeah.
But to the Karen or the Kaylee or the Michael in HR who screens this stuff, they probably won't know what some of these things are, like unit. Sometimes too, the word military, I think, I'm starting to get a little bit of a different opinion on that. I think it might be a spooky thing to some people that don't know any better.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm kind of on the fence on that personally.
Yeah. You hit on a good point in who is going to be reading this. And this is something that a lot of people don't realize is that the first person to look at your resume in this job hiring process probably knows very little about logistics and procurement and warehouse operations. They're a screener in HR. It's probably at entry level or one or two positions above entry level, where they're screening this on behalf of a manager that told them what to look for. So they don't really know the value of even what this person's trying to say. So in addition to that, not writing it for the least common denominator, the issues here there's some grammar issues, which for some people, that's an immediate disqualifier.
And Pete, another thing too, keep in mind for these guys is this is like having your privates just do shit, right? You tell them what to do, they do it. They go to, or airmen, whatever, or seamen. They got a lot of seamen in the Navy, right? Is that what it is?
Too much.
Yeah.
So, yeah, they do what they're told. They do, and then they don't really think outside the lane. There's no way for an HR, plebe to know what it takes to be a successful logistics manager. So there's that. The first person narrative that Zach pointed out, the I statements, they also don't belong there. That's not the kind of narrative we use on a resume. It's not the kind of language we use. And also he noted that the degree in his very brief narrative, and that's a waste of resume real estate, because every resume has or should have a separate section for education. So why repeat it here or introduce it here? The applicant tracking systems aren't going to be looking for it. And the people who are looking at it will understand fully that you have the bachelor's degree, because they are going to scan this thing even at a high rate of speed, and they're going to see education and they're going to say bachelor's. They're going to see it. So it's not really needed. But probably for larger companies, the scanners, the mechanical or the AI scanners are going to find the word bachelor in the resume and know that it's safe to pop it up to the surface when they're doing their keyword search. So that's what's wrong. So we worked together, and this is what I did. I'll read it out loud here. The logistics expert bringing 10 years of procurement and warehouse operations, along with 7 years of warehouse management experience in the military, directing 12 employees and $50 million worth of equipment. Purchasing manager for all supplies and equipment for the unit. 3.5 years managing shipping and receiving operations. Boom, boom, boom. It's all oriented towards what the reader needs to know about this person versus what the job is asking for. It's really impactful. I did leave the word military in there because I want the veteran slant going in there, because there's still financial benefits being offered to hiring the vet. And there's still a lot of infrastructure in bigger companies that would be the veterans outreach people who will be helping this person, or who could help this person as a resource to getting a leg up on networking into that company. So it's very value driven. Okay. Questions, comments?
No questions popping up in the chat yet.
Seeing
And
none,
then-
we will move on.
Some trolling going on, which
So
is
the
never-
other thing
Yeah, I saw that.
is the word count went way down too. So again, as with the first description, the first summary, less is more. Again, because people are reading yours, and they're reading a whole ton of others. And while you do want to put 110% of yourself into that resume, keep in mind that the person reading it is not going to be spending a lot of time with it. It's sort of like the up and coming actor or actress who busts their butt just to get an audition. They just want that 2-minute script read and acting opportunity to show what they can do. And they're actually just one small cog in a bigger machine that is screening them and looking at their abilities. So yes, never slack off on your resume content. Always make it the best it can be, but keep the perspective that everybody's going to be looking at this with a fast eye. Make sense? All right. So now I want to do a breakdown of typical job description. Most people are instructed to use bullets. This person didn't. So he put the company name, Liberty Title Inc., in the location Otsego. He put his job title second, and then put the dates. Then he, instead of breaking it down by bullets, he just put a brief summary here. This guy is really sharp. He's good at IT. He's got a lot of certifications and things that a lot of other ones don't have, but he just doesn't know how to write. So this is what he wrote. Received and acted on requests made by coworkers for daily IT support issues, including local and remote users with network connectivity, email, and non-functioning applications. Maintained all workstations, printer scanners, and ensured all local and remote computers were used on a weekly basis. Added and removed users, workstations, and distribution groups within Active Directory to ensure company security assets and asset handling. Researched and evaluated technology solutions to present recommendations for improved system operations. End of story. All right, you guys, tell me what you think is some of the things that impact you with that.
So
Well, for
stuff
me,
like
it's-
Active Directory is going to be like a function of the job that you'd probably put in. You know,
Mhm.
you did this for 8 years. Same with the remote computers, printers. You know, those are kind of functional pieces of the role.
Mhm.
So I mean,
My
I don't know if it's the
former
right
roommate's
place.
my former roommate's mom's company, so I'd be calling her and talking to her mom and the owner of the company at Liberty Title. Yeah,
Oh, okay.
so that's what stood out for me. Random,
That worked
really
already.
random. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's a lot of things there. When I read that, I thought, and for what my limited scope of knowledge for IT, I didn't see a lot of value in what he did. Now, granted, he only did it for a few months. If you look June of 2019 to October of 2019. So we really had to do some digging and break this down to get,
Oh, I'm sorry, Pete. I didn't realize this was the description of the last role that this fella had.
yeah, it was just the last role. Yeah. So we're going to
Okay.
add
So
a little,
I'm going to take back my words.
okay.
Yeah.
That's the confusing thing is it doesn't look, it looks a lot like a summary because he didn't break it down or anything. So what I see wrong here is there's too much information in one chunk for the reader to digest. The rule ought to be one thought or idea equals one bullet. Cramming everything into a paragraph increases the risk that the reader will lose interest because it's just not coming easy for them. Their brain and their eyes are on autopilot when they're scanning these resumes. So we have to make it ultra simple for them to get the idea, for them to read and understand the information that you want them to read and understand so that you can get that interview and then you can get that job. It's really simple.
Well,
Go ahead.
Quick question for you, Peter. So just for everybody watching and whatnot, so how much of that last piece, when you do have some of those, when you have your, some of what you did there, how much of that do you just want to stick into skills and abilities? Because if you've done it at more than one job, wouldn't you want to put, your skills and abilities if you've done it at multiple jobs, and then only put maybe a certain amount into what your description was of your job title?
Yes and no. I mean, yes to both, actually. We want to make a section of skills in every resume, because that helps the reader as they're scanning down from top to bottom. These are some of the best ofs. You're trying to give a preview of yourself. So having a little skills section helps by doing that. But when you want to repeat those same skills in the body of the resume, both for keyword search and to support what you're making, the claims that you're making up above by saying, yeah, I have this skill, I have that skill. If you put Excel, let's get down there into the body and somewhere in your career to say how you used Excel. Make sense?
Nope, absolutely. I just, I think that's just a good, piece of information, like in terms of, sometimes I see things get doubled up, tripled up when I'm reviewing a resume. And, it's like, I can see that you did it in your military career. I can see that you did it at your, one of your previous employers. And then, you've also got it in this area. And I think that, sometimes to be repetitive can be, detrimental.
Exactly.
So
kind of cut your own throat. Yeah.
Sorry. So another thing too on this, Pete, is there's no quantifiable results.
Negative.
Since I'm a low information kind of guy myself, I kind of lose myself with numbers. So if I could see the uptime as X or maintain this many pieces of peripherals or whatever it happens to be, I think that's great. But that's, I mean, there's just, this is too jumbled and I'm not even going to read it because I want to see KPIs.
I was thinking the same thing as you, Chuck, is that there was nothing quantifiable in here anywhere. I mean, maintained all workstations. Well,
this is an HR posting.
Were there 2
yep.
workstations or were there 200? Received and acted on requests. Was it 1 request a day that you averaged, or did you average, 25? By making it a little bit more quantifiable, you can show the versatility that you have.
Okay, very good. So out of this stuff, this paragraph of disjointed sentences, that was the basis of having a conversation with this person at a Battle Buddies meeting to break down and ask some of the very same questions that you just highlighted. So if it's quantifiable, by golly, we're going to figure that out and we're going to make sure that we know that. Now you see here, the word count actually goes up because there's more substance once we talked this through and asked the right questions. And you don't necessarily need a professional like me to do that. You need to follow the STAR format or the CAR format, as I like to call it. You need to state the challenge. What action did you take to overcome that challenge? And what were the results? And the results need to include some sort of number whenever possible. Okay. So here I created an overarching summary. Let me back up. I took the position title and put that first. Most people tend to put the company name for whatever reason. I put the job title first because that's the first thing I want the reader to see. That has more relevance than where you work. It's more of a what you did kind of thing. I also shade the background on that particular line just to help guide the reader's eye to see that first. Okay. Then, Liberty title, Siegel, blah, blah. We put that down there because the tracking systems do need to find a company name. So you definitely always want to put that. And so I did an overarching summary, supported the work center productivity. So now we're adding value. So he didn't just support the work center, but he supported their productivity, right? Supported work center productivity by managing and prioritizing a range of user requests, such as network connectivity, email, and non-functioning applications to foster uninterrupted access and use of technology and maintain cost-effective operations. That has a lot more value than what he said. He was scratching the surface on what he did. Now, all this is accurate. He just didn't think or didn't know nobody asking the right questions, to get that out and put it on paper. Then we broke the other things down into 3 bullets. And during our conversation, we probably pulled out new information that he didn't even think to talk about. So the bullets are: maintain reliability for all workstations, printers, scanners at peak readiness, and ensured all local and remote computers by monitoring performance and updating on a weekly basis. So I'm starting to push the edge of quantification by stating that it's on a weekly basis, and just getting more specific and detailed in what it is he did to fulfill that challenge, action, result format. Ensured companies' cybersecurity. There we go, more value by adding and removing users, workstations, and distribution groups within Active Directory, and maintain 100% inventory accountability. So we're adding some sort of quantification whenever we can. And again, that comes through just really thinking what it is that particular duty is. If you stick to, in your mind, one thought, one bullet, believe me, those kind of details will come to your mind. When you refuse to let your mind go on to another thought or another, introduce a second thought into the same bullet, it'll do that for you, guaranteed. Develop 5-year IT lifecycle plan by researching technology and proposing recommendations, including a standardizing equipment, workstation replacement cycle, upgraded switches, routers, and Ethernet cables. So now we're getting specific. So we're also peppering this up with more keywords, allowing more users to utilize laptops and remote technologies. So again, I'm just to review, I put the position title first because it's more relevant, and I shaded it. I did a value-driven summary, so the reader can A, get their mind around what the candidate did, and B, get an overall picture of what he or she brings to the table. And then I constructed CAR bullets: challenge, action, result. If you can't formulate a bullet into that strategy, challenge, action, result, then you probably don't need to be having it in your resume. If it absolutely just doesn't fit, there's no challenge there, there's no action, and or there's no result, consider whether it's just a fluffy job description verbiage, and whether or not your resume could probably live without it. That's it, babies.
That was good
That's
stuff.
it.
That's it.
That's
Short,
really good
sweet, to the
stuff.
point.
I like it.
So in summary, don't use conjecture, right?
Right.
Don't
Don't guess. Don't think you need to fluff it up and try to make yourself sound. How am I saying this? Don't put words that you think they want to hear.
a weapon without bullets is no good.
Right. And don't try to put a larger caliber bullet in the breech. That would be the fluffy words.
I accidentally threw 300 blackout into my 7.62 39 AR, and it didn't really fire that well. It wouldn't seat properly. It was so weird.
Nope. I sold the upper half to mine to somebody else so he could do a build. I didn't need that. That stuff's too expensive.
So basically, you got to use the right bullets in the right rifle, right, Pete?
Exactly.
Good
Exactly.
acronym.
So
I
you
like
guys, y'all know how to. Well, I don't know about here, Pete. Since you're the Air Force guy, this one came up during the Air Force Army game on my timeline, and some guys are making fun of airmen, right? Because you guys are the lowest hanging fruit on that. Now that the Space Force has come to the surface, we now have a new little brother to pick on. I'm guessing.
I know. Even I got somebody to pick
They
up.
just had their
Great.
first birthday 2 days ago.
Right. It's
Right.
impressive what they do, but I'm not. Well, I just admitted it publicly, but so do airmen qualify with weapons other than like big bombs that take out city blocks?
Oh yeah,
Like
we did rifle training. In fact,
Yeah, I've rifle range.
Really?
my particular unit was we were responsible for linking up with the Army and coordinating airdrops. So we actually had a field operation. We'd set up mobile, what we call aerial ports, so to receive goods. If there's an airstrip to be built, if not, we just stand and coordinate operations at the drop zone. So we had to wear ACUs and BDUs back in the day, and we had to be rated. We'd be what we call combat rated. We went to camp.
But don't
Like live rounds, or did they go pow like on Batman?
We put on the Miles gear and we did the whole war game scenario. It wasn't anything rough like what the Army or the Marines would do.
do they? But don't
A lot more than what most Air Force types do.
Don't the
ahead.
PJs get pretty good weapons training?
Dude,
Yeah.
that's PJs. I don't want to hear about it. That every PJ dropout goes into security forces, which is like Ranger, the Army's version of Rangers, right?
Hey, congratulations to the Army for getting a bowl game.
How?
I'll say
Anyway,
it.
I think that's enough sidetracking for the evening. So, oh, and also Always Sunny in Philadelphia is the second best show. But what's more important than that? It's only one thing, and that's bringing part of the other 22 million to our page, ladies and
Yes.
gentlemen.
Yep.
So we don't charge anything for this info. It's usually pretty good info. It's very rare that somebody gives us feedback that they wasted their time watching any of these. We've got an actual published guy here who's in Resumes for Dummies. So, that's a resource that you're not going to find.
Big dummies. No.
Now, yeah, you're not going to find a guy like Pete at a deed place or whatever. So, thanks for coming here and watching, and give us some feedback. If you want to connect with us on LinkedIn, all 4 of our links are on the page here. Write some comments in if you got any feedback for us.
Mhm.
Next week, we probably won't be here because we're going to be festivusing, if that's the proper term for 4 of us, not together, obviously.
I'm working next week, so if you want to do it, I'll be here. I'm down.
Okay. All right. So
I'm
Zach.
not taking any time off except for the given.
All right. So Zach.
Well, it
might
may
give
be a
us-
surprise. How about that?
Okay. Yeah. Maybe a surprise. We'll see.
Yep.
So if you put in good feedback, who knows? Maybe we'll bring a special guest in. Maybe Santa Claus will show up. So it's a little more family friendly. But thanks for
Yeah.
joining us this evening, everybody. Have a great Christmas week. And
I got one
New
more
Year's
thing.
Eve.
Save Brown. 2 books, very important. 1, 20-minute veterans networking.
Yeah.
Yep, there it is, a 20-minute networking meeting, Veterans Edition. Go for that. Book number 2, Mission Transition. It's all about post-military career and how to navigate through the opportunities and obstacles. I'm just starting it. So far, so good. I got nothing bad to say about it. Those are 2 things. Another thing, if we still got people watching, or if you watch us at a later time, tomorrow, Wednesday, December 23rd, 1300, 1 p.m.
Central.
We have a Zoom meeting that we're doing, and I'm happy to get the link to you, Chuck, or Sue, or any one of you.
Everybody's
Kiri
good.
Elias is going to be working with MacV. We're going to be doing a Zoom meeting tomorrow. A lot of good resume do's and don'ts. A lot of good information. She's a rock star. Can't say enough good things about her. She's been adamant in helping us out. And we actually do this meeting once a month with her. We're going to do it early this week because we usually do it on Thursday, but it'll be Christmas Eve. And then last week, and it'll be again next month, Derek Williams has a really good webinar that we're doing with USA Jobs, and it's all geared towards specifically federal jobs. So if anybody wants to be a part of those, please look me up on LinkedIn, Zach Johnson, or else you can find me at zjohnson at mac-v.org. Thank you.
Thanks,
Cool.
Zach.
Thanks, Zach. Have a good evening, everybody.
Merry Christmas, everyone.
All right.
Merry Christmas
you.
all.
Ho, ho, ho.
Huh.